Hey everybody, this is Overpass Live. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now I'm sorry the live stream's a few minutes late today or I don't even know if it started up before, but for some reason YouTube has changed all the settings that I had, which I use week in and week out, and I had to remember how to go set up all the encoding software and everything to do the live stream. But hopefully we're all live now. So if you could let me know whether or not you can hear me, that would be good. And whether or not you can see me, just do a quick sound and visual check. So can you guys hear me all right? Hello to Hussein Gokas, be the first one here. Rifat, how's it going? Rodrigo, hey, how's it going? And Hawk is here from Asia. So when you say you're from Asia, it's like me saying I'm from North America. Surely you could be more specific than that, right? But Hawk, where are you from specifically in Asia? And Rodrigo and everybody. So can you guys hear me? You guys hear me all right? I'm just waiting for somebody to say, Eric, we can't hear you or anything like that. So, and again, I did miss a day this week on videos, I think I'm gonna miss tomorrow too. I'm getting to the point now. So let me just launch into this. First of all, I just want to just let you guys know, I think the videos are going to become a little bit less frequent from now on. Not so much because I'm tired of doing them. This is like the highlight of my day. It's the thing I like doing the most. But mainly because a lot of times you just can't think of what to talk about. Like today's video, for example, was pretty weak. I think we could all agree it's pretty weak. And people have been telling me for a while, maybe you should just spend more time on the videos, do something a little bit more quality. So I'm starting to think maybe just stop with the daily stuff and do a few more things where I could spend a bit more time. Maybe spend a couple days on a video and just do it the right way, because a lot of that, like if it's rushed, if I'm trying to do it in the course of a day, which is just a thought that I had in my mind, and a lot of times if I go over a subject that I've already talked about before, I hear a lot about it in the comments. So it's really like I'm trying to think, have I talked about that before? And after well, there's been like 850 videos if we consider include the weekly one I was doing, and it's hard to come up with topics that I haven't done before. And a lot of times people ask for topics that I just don't know that much about, like Unity, or today I was talking with somebody about Facebook instant apps, and although I've looked into it a little bit, I don't know all that much about it. So if I was going to do something I wasn't that familiar with, I feel like I would do some research first in order to do it, as opposed to other things which I'm just so used to, like deploying apps to the App Store, trying to get the app ranks up and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys don't mind, but I still do. It's like the highlight of my day. I just want to make sure I have something good to talk about and not do just a video for video's sake. So hopefully that's okay with you guys. Let's see. Okay, cool. Everyone could hear. Great. Ratnadeep, hey, from Nepal. Hey, how's it going? Let's see. We can hear well. Cool. Sound is great. Hawk, too small a country you probably don't know. Lol. Hawk, come on. Look, just because I'm American doesn't mean I don't know geography. Maybe a little bit. Abdo Hamdi, hey, how's it going? Charles, lucky I'm here, good. El Ciro, hey, how's it going? Let's see, Rifat says, I was going to ask you to delegate the game to Overpass. Is that possible to outsource the maintenance of the game? Would you be interested in it? Maybe. So at the moment, yeah, it depends. It depends on if my developers do it. Like I find it really difficult to find good game developers. I know Rodrigo's doing a little bit of game development, but he's not doing it in a game framework, so it's a little bit different. So we've been quoting on a game this last couple weeks, which is like a quiz type game, and that almost could be in anything, right? You don't really have to have a high frame rate. You don't need to have like a game loop or anything like that. Maybe a bit of animation. So like a quiz type games are usually okay, but like we have some games that are like we did one where it's like you go up, like when you tilt the phone, the character flies up and down. We did that for a client a few years ago, and it was so much fun to do. I mean, it was fun and it was stressful because they kept coming up with all these changes, and we kept having discussions about this level's too hard, this level's too easy, this character's too cute, this one's not cute enough, that kind of like really subjective stuff. But it was fun to do, and that was using Corona. And so you got Corona, you got Unity, you've got Cocos 2DX and all that stuff, those game frameworks. And I find it really hard to find developers who could do that. I mean, I got a lot of developers who could do Unity, but it's more like 3D stuff, and I just want like simple 2D games. And whenever I ask like in-depth questions about this stuff, like the game loop and stuff, a lot of times I don't get answers that I'm really happy with. But yeah, I mean, we could have a look at something like that, Rifat. But or at least I could recommend somebody to you. I would keep spending money for marketing, but need someone to manage the process in Google Play. As a company, is not any ideas where I should go? If not, we have developed a game and it needs updates. I want to focus on contracting, keep funding the game. I would find developers. I can't manage them. Yeah, I think managing developers could be something we could probably help with. But it's so from my point of view, this is something I did a video about this. We're starting to scale back a little bit, starting to do less client projects, a little bit because of the Brexit stuff. So like I've noticed, and this might just be me, it might just be the time of year, whatever, but I noticed we've gotten a lot less work coming in over the last month and a half. And things have really slowed down. So I'm starting to scale back a little bit. I'm going to be moving out of this office to a smaller office again next month. Well, yeah, in about a month's time, right? And just because of all that kind of stuff. But it's that partly because of that, and partly looking to do more of our own stuff. So when I did a video last week where I talked about the pipeline and the buckets, and I've been so busy carrying buckets doing the client work that I haven't had time to just sit down and just code. So like today is a good example where I didn't work on any client stuff. A little bit I did, just the urgent stuff. And then I was just doing Flutter. I'm doing this Flutter application with a strappy, like a headless CMS as a backend. And it was just sitting down and just going through that. I've talked about Flutter for so much, and I haven't really spent the time to sit down and really just learn it and get good at it, right? I could do it. Like it's like any language. I mean, you could stumble through it, but you're literally stumbling through it. The code is working, but you're not sure if it's the best practice. You have to go through and look at other things. You look at the things that trip me up when I go from one language to another are the asynchronous type stuff. You know how those kind of things work. I remember doing when I got into Silverlight. That was the first time I had asynchronous code, and I did the same thing that every new developer does when they get to asynchronous. How do I cause everything to stop and wait? So you try to put a timer in there, all this kind of stuff. None of that worked, and you realize no, you're dealing with callbacks and events, an event-driven model, which is kind of the way I'm used to doing now with JavaScript, doing event-driven callbacks, asynchronous requests, and so forth. And then I'll go to Flutter, where a lot of the examples are using await and async, and that's getting back into that mode of thinking again. So that's what I was doing a lot today, and it was actually really fun. I mean, the weather's beautiful. I've got it. I've been looking at a lot of different CMSs. I was looking at headless CMSs, where somebody asked me about it in one of the comments. So what kind of headless CMSs are you using? And I hadn't really even heard the term before. So I've been researching that. I looked at Keystone.js, and then right now I'm playing around with Strappy.js, which I really like, and I think that's kind of, I'm almost looking at, I've done so many APIs in Express where I just create the REST APIs and doing the calls, and that's kind of fun to do that. But then I'm starting to think there should be something like I always think about the WordPress equivalent. Like, I don't write static HTML pages anymore because there's tools that do that, even though they add a bit of overhead, even though they may not be as nimble, but they're quicker, they're faster. If a change happens, you can fix it. If there's a bug, somebody else is dealing with it, somebody who's maintaining the platform. So that's what I've been doing a lot. Let's see. Hawk is from Singapore. Hey, I've heard of Singapore. What do you Hawk, you think I never would have heard of Singapore? Mega Man, hey, how's it going? Let's see. Anil Rao says, what are your thoughts on Flutter? I get that question every week. I don't know if you're asking that to be funny, but I get that question every week. I've never heard of Flutter. Flutter, what is that? What is Flutter? Let's see. Rodian Sabath says, hello, Eric. What do you think about the Godot game engine? Okay, I've never heard of it. Let's see. Let's have a look at Godot game engine. I've never heard of this one. let's have a look at the screen over here. Godot, which is a free and open source 2D and 3D game engine. My question is always, well, is it, do you have to pay for it? Second, what language is it in? Because I got pretty good at Corona, but it's in Lua, which is not a language that I particularly like. Oh, is it JavaScript? Okay, oh, because object-oriented API with options such as GD script. Is that Google script? No, it's Godot script. Visual script, C#, and C++. Oh, so you can do different stuff. I've never even looked at this. How new is this? Let's have a go look. More download. This is one of those things where I feel like I should know the answer to this. I might have a look at this. Features, download, don't download, donate. Oh, 2007. Oh, I'm looking for a GitHub page. Is there a GitHub page? No, but we're on version. Yeah, I haven't actually looked at this. I might have to check this out. Who has, sorry, let's see, which was that one? Oh, Rodian. I might have to check that one out, because, you know, this is, I had this big problem with games. So when I started learning, I started learning Corona because it was cross-platform. It looked like it was pretty simple. I liked the idea of it. I liked the fact that I didn't have a complicated IDE. I didn't have an IDE at all. Everything was just text-based. And when I went from that to Unity, Unity seemed like I had too much invested in the IDE. Now, I could be completely wrong about this, but when I looked at Unity, it reminded me a lot of Visual Studio back in the old days, when it was, you were dependent on the IDE. You couldn't do everything based on text, and you couldn't move from one tool to another. You had to stay in their IDE in order to do it, and that was something that I didn't quite like about Unity. But it's probably, I mean, it's probably not that bad. And when I got to, so I never really progressed very far on it. And the big reason was because Unity, both Unity and Mono Develop, no, before it was called Xamarin. But then even after it was called Xamarin, they were both too expensive to start with, and Corona was a lot cheaper. And so I went with Corona, and I learned how to do all the Lua stuff, and I've never transferred my skills over. I've looked at Cocos 2D-X, which is C++, I think, and Cocos 2D-JS, which is the JavaScript equivalent, and I wanted to go that way. But at the time when I was looking at that, again, the documentation wasn't really good on that. I've done a bit on Impact.js for the browser. Now, Impact.js was, I mean, this is ages ago. This is like 2011, 2012, something like that. That's a really cool framework, and I really like doing that. It's where I learned about how the game loop works, all that kind of stuff. But it was really slow in the browser, or not really slow on mobile. So if you put it in PhoneGap or Cordova, it was really very slow. And I know there was other things that came out, like God, there was an engine that came out which would run JavaScript in the browser, which would change everything into canvas objects. I keep thinking it's called Love or something like that, but I could be wrong. I can't remember what it was called. And a lot of these things just seem to be kind of half-baked. And so when it comes to game engine frameworks, I've always found a lot of things that they kind of do what I want them to do, but not quite. Even like doing stuff in Lua, we have I have some legacy code in Corona that I just need to go through and update. And just getting back into the Lua frame of mind is something I don't particularly like doing. And then there's also, so what I have been looking into lately, and again, I say looking into, like, it just, like, it's been an hour of wasted time researching this, is looking into how I could do a game framework for Flutter. And I think there's a framework called Flame for Flutter applications, because I really want to just do one. I don't want to switch IDEs. I don't want to think, when a client comes to us and says that we need an application that does this, and then later on they say, I want a game included into it, which has happened before, and you're thinking, well, all of a sudden we got everything which is done in Ionic, and then we need to include a game in it. And we could do something like Corona cards or something, and include something in there but I've never actually done that. So let's see. Hawk says, I have a topic for your video. You could talk about your thoughts on trends like DevOps, Agile versus Waterfall, etc. Yeah, I suppose we could. I mean, yeah, I'll write that one down. I think it's a lot of these things, when I talk about them, it's really my opinion on them. And oh, I get some nasty comments. I woke up this morning to a nasty comment. Somebody commenting on, I think it was a Flutter video I did. And it was just talking about why I was excited about Flutter. So it was just my opinion of it. With no, and somebody, just a nasty comment about how I had to keep stopping to swallow every few minutes, or or something like that. And it was like, dude, man, it's hard to do these videos sometimes. I can't be self-conscious about that too. So, but yeah, no, Hawk, thanks for that. Yeah, that would be a good topic too. Let's see. Mega Man says, oh, sorry. For some reason, your thing was blocked here, Mega Man. Where did it go? Mega Man says, hi, Eric. Is it worth buying the .com, .co.uk, .net, and other variations of a domain? Yes, if they're cheap. Yeah, I talked about this before, about the .co.uk domain for Overpass years ago, and because everybody in the UK knows what .co.uk is, right? It's a standard thing, but like my dad always gets confused about it. He goes, so it's .co. So how does it go again? It's .co.uk. Everybody knows it, but people around the world don't get it. So I wish I had the overpass.com. For years, it wasn't so much. It wasn't available, but I probably could have got a good price for it. And now it's used by some other company, and I was like, well, that's just it. So I would say, yeah, get those just in case. Maybe not the .co.uk. I wouldn't, unless you're gonna need it. Unless it's something that's really common and you think somebody might steal it from you. Steal it from you. Somebody might take it over, and then you can't move into that market if you need to in the future. Hawk says, speaking of which, do you have clients requesting do you follow the Agile approach, given you normally do fixed scope project? So Hawk, I have never, ever had a client ask me to do an Agile application. We did do one application where I went through and we said, I'm going to do this. We're going to use Scrum on this one because I like the idea of Agile. As a developer, I took the Scrum Master certification back in 2008 or something like that. So I got my Scrum Master certification. It all made perfect sense using story points, having burn down charts. If you're behind schedule at any point of the day, right? So you can see it on a graph. So you can catch these things early on. Nobody's saying, oh, it's like 90% of the way done, and then it's 90% of the way done for the next 3 weeks. And it really made sense. But what it doesn't seem to answer is the question so every client has two questions: how much and when's it going to be done, right? How long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost, right? Even if it's fixed price, they want to know when's it going to be done. And it's embarrassing when you don't know, because you're looking at the velocity. You're looking at the velocity of the project and seeing how quickly the developers are working, and trying to estimate on that. And if somebody adds something on, you say, okay, we're going to add that on to the end. That'll be the next sprint. And it was really hard to get the client to understand what a sprint was, how it was working, why they care. In fact, even like when I was doing a contract, I was doing a contract at a major publisher, and so I was the developer on a project, and they said, okay, so you're an Agile guy. Let's do this Agile, like the consultancy I was working with. So let's do this Agile. So I did a burn down chart, or no, I did a backlog list, and they came back and said, oh, this is great. This is really great. You have everything in a backlog. But can we not call it a backlog? Because that already sounds like we're behind schedule, right? I said, well, fine, we'll call it something else, right? I don't care what you call it, but that's what it is. And they said, yeah, and can you put a date next to each one of these? I said, well, no, because it goes into a sprint, and then the sprint's like 2 weeks. And I said, yeah, but we just need to know when it's going to be done. And in the end, we just went to Gantt charts, and Gantt charts never work either. So, but I do think that the waterfall, and again, there's loads of project managers out there who will say this, that, and the other thing. Every time, I've never heard anybody say anything positive about waterfall ever. Like normal project managers, like it's kind of like a project has to run on time. It has to, all the tasks has to be done. And whenever somebody says waterfall, they're using it in a negative context, right? But really, sometimes you have dependencies on one thing after another. So let's see. Jose Zay says, "Hi Eric, what do you think about libgdx? I'm learning how to develop games in this framework right now." I've never used that either. I've heard people talk about it, and then that's one where you could use Java to do games, right? Let's see. Charles says, "I just started using Flutter 2 and I'm loving it already." I do. I like the fast reload, but I'm getting bits where there's little bits where I'm at the point where I've watched so many tutorials on it that I just need to get in there and get stuck in. So, like yesterday, it was just I just want to connect to a database. So connect to a SQLite database. So basically what I have is I have a Strappy, a headless CMS in the cloud, so I didn't have to write it all in Express. Not in the cloud, it's running on my local machine, but you know, that's my API. So I've got a Strappy one. I could have used Firebase or something by using Strappy because. And so I set that up, and then I have my I want the app to run offline, so I have it checking the last updated date on each of the objects that get added. So everything's stored in a local SQLite database, and so I'm just going through it. So you log in and you store the token, yada yada yada. That's how that's kind of working. And one of the things that yeah. So but one of the problems I have every time I work with SQLite database in an app, it's going through and making sure that the database looks right without having to go through and run a bunch of code. So I use SQLite browser, no, SQLite data manager, I forget what it's called, but like a client-side application which will do that. And but every time I use it in the iOS emulator, the iOS simulator, it puts it in a different place. Like if you have ever tried to find the sandbox on an iOS simulator, it is just really difficult. In Corona, it's easy. Corona, it's a menu option. Open up the sandbox, it opens it up in Finder, you see what it is. Android, not so much, but on an iOS simulator, it's just really difficult. It's like they put it under loads of GUIDs, and it's always changing with each Xcode version. It's like they don't want you to find it, but you kind of do. Like the ideal situation is you have the app updating the database, and you can just check those values just to make sure that everything's updating the way they should. The same way you would on a backend database if you had something updating a SQL server or MySQL database. You kind of run queries just to make sure, okay, all right, that is updating, or why is that not updating, that kind of stuff. So let's see. Oh, thanks for the Rifat. Thank you very much for the pound. Appreciate it. Hawk says, actually, Google just announced it's going to release a gaming platform later in the year. I forgot the name, but it's supposed to be a game changer of some sort. Is that the one, Stadia? Is that what it is? Because, or is that, are we talking about a game framework, or are we talking about the platform that they're going to be able to play games on, like through Unity and stuff? Let's see. Rifat says, Eric, you have a psychology major. I have a psychology minor. Use that hat, not the technical hat. So yeah, I have a psychology minor, and my major was in history. So, but I do, yeah, tech changes all the time. I mean, this is one of the things I'm starting to look at, you know, what I want to do in the future. So, you know, we've got so much, we got quite a lot of client work on at the moment, and it's, but there's also things I want to work on. I'm putting some stuff in and working on some of our own projects, and I'm enjoying doing the coding myself, but also part of me is thinking, maybe I shouldn't be doing the coding of this on my own. Maybe I should be doing more, going out, doing the sales, finding the clients, finding out, you know, doing the requirements, gathering and everything like that. But to spend a couple days just sitting down, coding through some problems, you'd be surprised at how often I've done that. Like we talk about the half-finished project. Like I'll just spend a few days, like, and it always starts off like, I'm gonna build this whole thing myself, and then like 2 days later it's like, nah, screw this, I'll give it to somebody else. But in that time I learned how everything works. I learned how to connect to a database. I learned how, because then it gets tedious after you get the major building blocks out of the way. You start going, I gotta do the login form, I gotta, you know, I gotta authenticate with the API and get the token back. It's gonna be, you know, kind of boring. And yeah, so then you're just going through the slogging through everything. But Jesse says, what do you think about the passing of Article 13 in the EU? I think it sounds like it's going to be, I haven't heard anything good about it. I mean, I suppose it's, I mean, Article 13, I mean, truth is you do see a lot of copyright material on YouTube, and you see a lot of that stuff. And a lot of people are being demonetized for different stuff. And I think they're clamping down on a lot of people for copyright infringement on YouTube, like just demonetizing them without even, like, based on algorithm. In fact, I've heard so many people complaining on YouTube over the last few weeks, the same way that people, like app developers, complain, like Google has disabled ads or they've demonetized, and I don't even know why. Like it's like unjust, but like it's an algorithm. There's no way to appeal, or if I do appeal, I'm going through some form and I don't hear anything back, that kind of stuff. And I'm starting to think about that as, you know, maybe that's just, they're just so big that everything is, you know, everything just has to be done so quickly. And the thing about YouTube is, and I think, what is it, like 400 hours are uploaded a minute or something like that, some ridiculously impossible to comprehend statistic on what goes through. So everything is done computer algorithm based. And in terms of the Article 13, it sounds like they're trying to enforce something that can't be enforced, right? It's, and so it's just going to be more difficult going forward. I'm still kind of upset about the GDPR thing, to be honest with you, right? I still don't, when we go and we're doing prospecting and trying to find new clients, it was always so easy just to send off emails, right? I don't want to get on the phone and call people. I'm getting more cold calls now because of GDPR, because, you know, they're not emailing. I still get the cold emails, right? But most people don't really take much notice of it, but like, I'm not just emailing companies anymore, just saying, hey, we can provide you services. But, you know, so GDPR made things difficult. GDPR makes perfect sense. You know, if you're going to show ads, you should give consent to show ads. But then it makes just the whole thing complicated in terms of the how it all fits together. So let's see. Let's go. Let's see. Rifat says, anything that catches we could learn. What gets attraction in the market is important. I think, yeah, I think that too. I think it's I spent so much time. You know, we're spending a lot of time doing applications for other companies, which is good. But a lot of times it's you know, we need to be building some of our own platforms and building our own projects. And I think, Rifat, I think what you're doing of contracting, but at the same time building up your pipeline at the same time, I think that's a really good idea. So, yeah, get that going. So yeah, I think that's, yeah, keep going on that. Jesse, how's Flutter going for you? Lastly, what design UI programs do you use? So how's Flutter going? I'm really enjoying it, but I'm still at the, like, going from one language to another is, I mean, it's not impossible, because you know how things work, you know how things should work, but there's just those little things. It's like it's just like learning the little differences about stuff. Like, you want to do, the worst thing somebody can do when you see, I can remember when everybody went from VB6 to C#. A lot of people were coding in the same way they did in VB6, right? It was just thinking, you know, they're looking for that kind of stuff. Or, like I said, when you go from synchronous programming to asynchronous programming, all of a sudden you start thinking, how do I wait for this thing to come back before I do anything else, rather than think about an event model. So what do you show while you're waiting for that to come back? Or what do you do if it doesn't come back? All that kind of stuff. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of coding. And what I don't want to do is go from JavaScript into Flutter thinking I'm going to do everything the JavaScript way. I'm trying to learn how to do it the Flutter way, and learning all that. And it's kind of playing catch up. There's so much materials out there though, so I like it. And what design UI programs do you use? We use Adobe XD. So like, mostly it's for when we're quoting. So when we're doing our own stuff, it's usually like one of our our designer will go through and mock some stuff up, or and then we'll get the assets out. So but a lot of times when we do our own stuff, I'm pretty much happy with everything, like, first time through. I'm more concerned with the code and the logic, and let somebody else's creativity take over. As we do things for clients, a lot more iterative, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And that could get a bit, you know, expensive. Johan Zeb says, "Hey Eric, how you doing?" I'm doing good. Good, thanks. Let's see. Hawk says, "There you go. Copied from Google. Google on Tuesday unveiled a video game streaming platform called Stadia, positioning itself to take on the traditional video game business." Yeah, I mean, but it's like more. I looked at that and I was thinking, didn't there used to be a streaming service, wasn't there? Like, I'm thinking on demand, but that's not. I can't remember what it was, but I know my kids were trying to use it, and because they were complaining our broadband was too slow at the time. Yeah, and I think about like a lot of the 2D games and stuff I do. It's not really something that I would think would be good for it, because they were showing like Assassin's Creed and everything, I think, in the demo. So that's one where I think, even though it's like a new platform, I don't know if that's a good opportunity for indie developer. Well, it is. I suppose it would be for indie game developers if they're good, but you're also having the competition from everybody else at the same time. Let's see. Johan Zeb says, "Will it be better to use Flutter with Firebase or AWS?" Yeah, maybe AWS. Well, the reason I was using the headless CMS was because I want to have an admin site. So like Firebase is a good idea. It's like almost like a headless CMS, but I like having it. I would like to have like an admin site, so for clients, so they can go through and add stuff. Now the Strappy admin site is not necessarily user friendly, and you kind of have to create your own admin site there anyway. But I've had like clients where we said, well, we use Firebase as the back end. We could create an admin interface for you to go through and update certain details and everything. And they say, yeah, sure. But then we'll add other things where maybe we left that out. So maybe adding like an address or something. Like it gets added through the app, but they can't change anything on the admin interface. So it's really difficult to explain to somebody how to go into Firebase, go into the Firebase console, expand out all those nodes of the real-time database, find what they're looking for, so be able to query it without having without being able to like run SQL or something, and then make a change and hope it doesn't crash everything. Like you, as a developer, I never wanted anybody messing around with my database ever. You know, that's what you create an interface for, saying this is what I will allow you to do, and this is what I will not allow you to touch. But me as a developer, yeah, I'll go through there tinkering around with stuff. And as a developer, if you've never brought down an entire system because you've been messing around with the database, you haven't lived. Like, just take it like, hey, you're just sitting there messing around with it. I'll just make this code change on the fly. This is on smaller companies. I'm talking like big companies, they won't let you even touch the live database. But somebody says, oh, well, you just change something. Let me just make this change through a query, whatever. And then everybody says, hey, the site went down. You go back. Right? Always roll back if you need to. But I'm just saying small changes, like on a record level basis. Husam for Gaming, hey, how's it going? Serge says, hi, Eric, I released another game app a couple months ago on Android. It does all right, earning about $100 at the moment. Cool. Would you give advice about ASO or something I could improve? At the moment, organic installs are far from perfect. Okay, let's have a look at this. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have to, this live stream is going to have to be a little bit shorter than normal. Let's see. So we're going to take a look at Serge's application here. So this is called Solitaire Klondike. Cool. So we got 2019. Cool. I always wonder about solitaire games. Do you have to code all the logic yourself, or is there like templates out there that do it? Like, I think the same thing about chess games. There's so many chess games and certain types of games where I think if I remember thinking this, like thinking on my own, like if I had to code a chess game, how would I do it? Each chess piece would have certain moves. How would I evaluate the board? How would I, if I was going to do the AI opponent, how would I know which one to move? Would I evaluate? And I imagine it would be really complicated, but then I think there might be stuff out there. So let's have a look. Solitaire Klondike. I imagine Solitaire must be really hard to rank for. Klondike, I don't know what Klondike is. Let's see, we got one hand mode. Okay, so you got a video. No, we got So let's have a look at the video here. You guys can see my screen, right? Okay. Ooh, you're using phone finger. Awesome. Phone finger. I assume you're using a phone finger, Serge. Phone finger is it's on a Mac, I think. I don't know if they have a Windows version, but it's basically turns your mouse pointer into a giant finger, and there's like a lady's finger or a men's finger. So it's really good when you do screen share, like you just record your screen as opposed to trying to film your phone. If you've ever tried to film your phone and to do a video, you know how hard it is because you got the reflection, it's dark, you know, it's just like never really a good experience. And you notice when you see it, you'll see like it's just dark and I think the video is really good. Solitaire Klondike. I'm wondering about the I think the icon. I like the fact that you have the date on it. Let's have a look at App Annie. App Annie. You know, every week I have to log in. Remember me for 14 days. I always have to log in. Oh, come on. All right. So let's have a look at this here. Solitaire Klondike. Okay, there's loads of them called. Okay, let me go back to this. There's a lot of things with the same name. So I'm wondering if you got 282 reviews. That looks really good. Are you paying for So let me scroll down on the chat. Sorry about this, Serge. If you've been saying stuff about it. Oh, you got the phone finger from the videos. Yeah, that's phone finger. I think it's pretty cool too. I haven't used it in a while. But it's pretty cool. Let's see. I mean, especially if you're doing the videos. So let's see. Contact. So Artifact Games. Sorry about that. So let's go to Google Play. I would imagine that it's going to take a while just to get to rank well on it. Sorry about this. Let's just do this. There we go. Okay, so we got solid. Okay. So I'm looking at the Google Play side of things, Serge. So I'm not sure. I didn't notice if it was on iOS too. So you've got. Let's see. You're ranking for. So. Klondike Solitaire game, Klondike card game. Let's go look at the US rankings. Let's see. So we got Solitaire Klondike. So where are let me scroll down so I can see your answer. Where are most of your users coming from? So I see you got the Russian on there. So you rank 52 in the US on Klondike Solitaire app, which considering is not bad. Smart Solitaire, you're ranked number 1. So let's go through and just do a search on the name itself. So you're down a ways, but not too bad. So if we just do Solitaire. I mean, I always thought this would be like a really hard one to rank for. And also, all the icons look very similar to each other. I mean, what do the rest of you guys think? So I think it looks good. I'm wondering about I'm more thinking about how you're finding things to it. So if we go back to, let's go back to Solitaire Klondike. I'm wondering about, let's see, oh God, I can remember this, is it HL equals RU? Is it HL language? So you have it translated into Russian. What other languages do you have? Yes, Spanish? Yeah, you got it. Or wait, do you have it? No, you don't have it done in Spanish, but you do have it done into Russian. So I mean, are you getting a lot of downloads from that? Let's see. So let everyone else let Serge know what you think about his app there. Let's see. Let's see. We've got Riffout says gave an offer in Cambridge today, and the place has a garage. Do you think about the isolated place in the house? Gave an offer in oh, so you mean like Rifat? Do you mean you're gonna move into a place that has a garage? I thought about that. So I had, like, my early videos were done from the loft at my house. So it was so I did like a loft conversion almost, but not. We didn't have a door, so it didn't have a door on it. So I would, still couldn't filter out the noise. I had a real difficulty doing the videos because the sun would come in my face, but it was just having a place where I can go and just leave my stuff to be. I know I've known people who, like, when I was working from home, when I was working a contract, where I was working 3 days on site, one of my contracts, and 2 days from home. And there was another contractor who started, and he had the same deal. 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we worked in the office, Mondays and Fridays we worked at home. And he was like, he talked about how, I really like working in the office. It's much nicer working in the office because you get to talk to people, whatever. And I was the opposite. I thought, oh, man, I like working from home. It's better, right? And it turns out when he would talk about working from home, he'd be like sitting on the couch, didn't have a desk. It was just sort of like moving around the house. And I was like, no, you need a place. You need a place you can sit down. And when you're sitting there, everybody knows that you're working, right? Nobody bothers you. It's just that. And it's much more comfortable. Put some music on. It's your own place. Right, and I hated working in an office, and I still do. But it's different here because it's my office. Like, I could take a nap if I wanted to. Right? Nobody's gonna. If I would, I used to worry when I was working in a corporate environment. Like, if I had to Google something, and it was something work related, like how to what kind of locking type do I need when I open up a record set or something like that. Something like you would just think, I can't remember the syntax exactly. Let me just Google it real quick. And you go through and you're looking at stuff. And then I can remember somebody coming up and said, are you looking at, is this work related? I was like, yes, it's work related. And, it's just kind of like, it was difficult. It was difficult when you always felt like somebody was looking over your shoulder, even if you weren't doing anything wrong. But you need a place. Yudi, hey, how's it going? Yudi says, hi, Eric. We're currently doing an app for a client which relies heavily on real time as users play together. What would be better, Firebase or Node.js development in terms of speed and reliability? I think Firebase would be very good in terms of the data storage, but if you're talking about real time, real time gaming, where they're gonna be like, if I move and you move at the same time, you need to know what that is. And I would imagine you need like something like is it PubNub? So you have that fast communication where you send through the coordinates of each player going to a central location. And I would wonder, I would think that Firebase would get really expensive if you have too much traffic going through, because they will get you on the bandwidth on that. Whereas if you use Node.js, you can move to the cheapest server possible, and you could also run it locally. Well, you can run Firebase locally too, but you can move it to the cheapest server you can, and you could probably also cluster it better too. So, because let's say you use Node.js with a Heroku instance or on AWS or whatever, and it gets too expensive, then you could maybe have one node going here, one going somewhere else, another one going somewhere else, and have everything feed back into a central location. So let's say you could architect it in a way that if I'm in Asia with Hawk in Asia, if I'm in Asia and I connect, maybe I would connect to an Asia, like a a server that's closer in order for that real-time interaction, but it would still have to connect through the back end with a central hub, which would manage all that kind of stuff. And I think you would have a lot more flexibility with that. And also Firebase, you're given. I mean, I really like Firebase because it gets you up and running quickly, but I worry about them being able to take it away. Now I know that Google Play Game Services has real-time gaming and stuff like that, but I've never ever used it because I don't think it was really easy to do in Corona when I was doing that. But that's just my opinion. So Jay Matthew, hey Jay, how's it going? Hey Eric, for the static homepage for a client, would you go with WordPress or something like Wix, and why? Thanks. I like going with WordPress because, especially if it's for a client, I can control WordPress. Now WordPress is old, you know, it's but they're always updating it. What did they say? Something like, this is like a ridiculous amount of the web is running on WordPress. What is it? Let me see. Let's Google this real quick. So what is the percentage of the web? So yeah, what they say, 30% of the WordPress now powers 30% of websites. WordPress now, yeah, so it's like you can't go wrong giving them something then, and also you're in control of it. Where Wix is something that, I mean, Wix might be better because it's up all the time. If there's an outage, it's not your problem. If you're like running WordPress on your own server and they call you up in the middle of the night saying, "Hey man, it's down," right? That's kind of like your issue. But if you did, if you had work, but then you could also, you know, make, you know, if they wanted something really specific. I haven't really used Wix or was it Squarespace? Squarespace. I haven't used Wix or Squarespace. I've used Drupal. I've used Joomla in the past, and I think Drupal and Joomla, and again, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's out of my sphere. I don't see it very often. But I remember they used to be a lot bigger than they are now. And maybe it's just one of these things where it's just because I don't meet that many Drupal or Joomla developers anymore. But when it comes to like Wix and Squarespace, I think you would lose a little bit of control over it just as a developer. So if they come to you and say, how can I do this in Wix? Or how can I add this other thing in here? You would have to figure out how Wix works and able to do that for them, or show them how to do it. If they can do it on their own, then if they're doing it on their own, I would say send them to Wix, because then if they have a support issue, it's not your problem, right? But if they want something that's special and they're expecting you to do it, I would go with WordPress. But that would just be me. That's my first initial thing. Now I have not looked into Wix. I haven't looked into Squarespace. I've never used them. But my initial reaction would be we would go with WordPress. Even though WordPress is a bit slower and clunky, but you got plugins. Like if they say we want this to integrate with a social media network that hasn't even come out yet, right? Where they want to integrate it with something else, that you probably be able to find a plugin on WordPress, but not necessarily on Wix, or you know, it might take a while for somebody to build that. Let's see. Mega Man says, "Hi Eric, you should make a simple Overpass app where we can suggest and upvote video topics." Yeah, that would be good. I know a few app developers. Actually, that might be a good idea. A lot of times the video topics that people suggest are, you know, it's like a lot of times people suggest things like do an Android Studio tutorial. And the reason I don't do it is because I might not know Android Studio as well as somebody else would, right? And it's, but I do, so there's that. Like, or somebody talks about, you know, can you tell me about Unity or something like that? And if I don't know it very well, I don't feel like I should be talking about it, because there are other people probably more qualified to do it. But yeah, that does sound like a good idea. Bala says, "Hi Eric, how do you decide on your next app? What do you consider at priority?" So right now we got this client application. We got a client application which I would like to do as a framework. So I would like to do something where we could do something subscription model. I got a few ideas, but it's just really the case of whether or not I want to invest in them at the moment. So but what I want to do, I like the idea of doing something where we build a platform at the back end that can power multiple front end applications. Even though, but I'm not saying reskin front ends. It's more just having something where we have like a good admin site where people can add stuff. Like even the language learning games for years I've thought about doing, like, I want people to be able to add their own words to it, their own translations, their own audio files. And I could have done it. If I just sat down and just pushed everything else aside, I could have done it in a week or two, right? But I never did, right? I just yeah, that's how to do it. Bala says, your kid is saying hi to me. Hey, how's it going? I know that was ages ago. I hope he's still there. Let's see. Rifat says, did you ever go through security clearance for a contract? Would it matter in the rates, or is it overhyped? I've never done it for a contract. I had a security clearance when I was in the Army, but I've never done it. And I get contacted about security clearance jobs a lot because I have security clearance in my CV, where I had a security clearance when I was in the military. It was on my CV for a while, so I get like keyword hits for recruiters. They'll say, we got this job that requires security clearance, and I'm thinking, well, I'm kind of like a foreigner. I don't know if that's going to be, and that usually ends it there. So Abdul Hamdi says, what Flutter tutorial do you suggest you to learn with? So I've watched the MTech Viral has a lot of really good Flutter tutorials, and he's really good because he starts from the beginning, like on every single one. Like today I watched one. So let me just let's just show my screen here rather than just talking. So let's go to MTech Viral. MTech Viral's got some really good ones on his channel. Let's see if I find it was MTech Viral. Here we go, YouTube. So he's got some really good ones on there, and it's just like he's loads of them. And every time I'm googling something, I always come back to him. So those are really good. If you're going to watch some of those, and well, what let's see, one was called Let's Code This. This was one. No, not this one. Where is he? It's this guy. Oh, Let's Build That App. It's this guy. And he has a Flutter tutorial on here somewhere. Which I watched. And it was like 45 minutes. And it was a lot quicker. But I watched so many tutorials already. I think it was maybe Flutter Getting Started. I think it was Flutter Getting Started. It was this one, which was like, yeah, 25 minutes. I think he had another one that was 45 minutes, if I can. But he's got some really good videos on there too. And this is when I see his and I see MTech Virals, I think I wish I could do it as well as them. But it really explains things very well, goes through very fast. And if you're already a software developer, you don't need somebody who's slow. You just need somebody to get the concepts going through. So I think they're both really good. And there's other ones out there too, but those are the ones I really like. And now and Flutter has their new YouTube channel they started, I think, last month, and that's more snippets of stuff. It's more polished, but it's sometimes it's good just to see somebody coding away. And they're the ones that made me want to use Visual Studio Code, because before I was using Android Studio, and they kind of turned me on to the Visual Studio Code. But so that's why I'm trying to learn the shortcuts, and I still have this from last week, the shortcuts here next to me. So let's see. Rifat says, how many alarm clocks do you set up to wake up at 4 a.m.? How about people in the house? Do they give you a hard time? So my alarm this morning went off at 4:45. I did not hit snooze this morning, but I did kind of lay in bed to like 4:50, and then sometimes I'll just lay there. And I've gotten in a bad habit in the last couple of weeks of hitting the snooze button, because you know what it's like. Well, you know what it's like when you get woken up and you're in the middle of a dream, and then like the alarm kind of works its way into the dream. I get that a lot. So sometimes I find if I just hit stop and I don't hit snooze, I've gotten in the bad habit just in the last month or so of just laying in bed a little bit too long. And if I drift back to sleep, then that's the end of it. But normally I'll get up. So, and it's only the one alarm, and it's on vibrate, so nobody really hears it except me. And when I was in the Army, when I was growing up, my mom always she had a radio alarm clock that she would turn the volume all the way. You could hear it from every room in the house, and that's how I thought alarms should work. So when I went at the Army, I was in a barracks. Not basic training. You didn't need an alarm clock in basic training, but later on we went to Chinese school. You had to get up in time to go to school, in time to go to class, and and that's and back then I would do the same thing. I had a radio alarm clock. I'd turn it all the way up, and everybody complained. Everybody hated me before it. They said, you shouldn't wake up like that. It should be like, dee, 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 dee. Oh, just wake up, not like, oh my God, oh my God. So I've gotten used to waking up with just a vibration. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Josh says, have you ever used Firebase Auth or Firebase Cloud Firestore? We use Firebase Cloud Firestore on one app, but we ended up moving everything to AWS in terms of image storage. We're using it for image storage, and just because the bandwidth was so high on it and was so expensive. Firebase Auth, yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. I like, you know, it's nice. We use Firebase Auth a lot of the time. Let's see. Jay says, okay, I'll use Firebase. Say Serge says, okay, phone finger. Okay. Let's see. So I'm gonna have to wrap up here pretty soon, guys. But let's see. I've lost track. I've lost track of where it was. Josh says, if you're gonna go static, go with the easy deploy thing like GAE, Heroku, or Firebase hosting. Josh says, would you recommend advertising for apps? I would recommend trying it. I would recommend advertising for apps, but only if it's profitable. You have to like do like a small amount first, like say $5 or $10 a day, just to see how it's going. Make sure people are clicking through, because if you're getting like and see what your cost per acquisition is. So if your cost per acquisition is $3, so for every user it's costing you $3, and you're making 5 cents off of them, then definitely stop, right? Or think about other ways you could do that. When Google AdSense, the Universal App Campaigns, UAC, they do say that they use machine learning, so you can actually say people who are likely to make an in-app purchase if you do it that way. And I've run that for quite a while. Again, low, like I didn't even realize it was going, like it was like 50 pounds a month or something was coming out. And that's something that, because it's supposed to learn as it goes, but I think that's still running actually. Let's see. Josh, show me your Firebase. Let's see. Let's have a look at this. Oh. So Josh has shared me a link with Firebase here. Oh, the hosting costs. Yeah, Firebase hosting. Yeah, so you can do the static hosting with Firebase. You can do everything through Firebase. But what I was finding was, and the only reason we don't use Firebase for everything is just the cost. I mean, it was like when you get a couple, like we were still in development and we had a bill for like £100 a month or something. And it was hardly any users, but we had all these automated processes running and everything. Let's see. Josh says, I think it's Kubernetes for real-time stuff, connected to the same server. Okay, it's more like Q&A games, coordinate games. Let's see. Is there any other questions here? Oh, Fist007, hey, how's it going? I'm sorry, guys, if I'm so behind. I'm so rubbish at doing the live streams. One day I'll get good at this. Let's see. Josh says, what's with the ECPM on AdMob? He's asking Serge what his ECPM as AdMob is. Sircon says, hi, Eric. Nice to see you live. Hey, Sircon, how's it going? Fist007 says, hey, Eric, I'm in the middle of implementing my app's backend, front-end, admin panel, and I went with Angular. Any advice? Thanks, man. No, Angular seems like a good choice. I mean, it seems to be Angular or React, right? And React is, I kind of like React, except I don't like the idea of, I don't like the fact that the JavaScript escapes into the JSX, into the markup within the JavaScript components. That's something that I just kind of wasn't too keen on. But it's just like a thing that I just don't like the look of it. Like I can remember not liking the look of the curly brackets or the yeah, the curly brackets at the when I'm moving to C#. But just, you know, that's one of the reasons I prefer Angular, and even then I still like Angular 1 more than I like Angular 2. I feel like that change they made, it's always changing. I don't particularly like TypeScript, and that's just my own thing. And I know it's better. I know like all that stuff, but it's just let's see. Miguel Sedana says, "Hey Eric, check out my app, Pop Video." Okay, so after okay, oh cool. So after Hawk's question, oh, too much wasabi. Hola, hola. ¿Qué pasa? Right? Too much wasabi. Let's see. Cool. So after we look at Pop Video for Miguel, I'm gonna have to wrap it up just because I got to go someplace later. Okay, so screen share. So this is Pop Video. Pop Video. Miguel, is this? Can you tell me if this is on Google Play? And why can't I find it? Let's see. Okay, so I've been here, but have you guys ever had a situation where your app doesn't even show up when you type its name? I remember and it seems like it takes a while for that to actually to work. So let's see. Is it? Okay. All right. Cool. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Josh. So Josh is putting it in here. So new tab. Thank you very much. Pop Video, podcasted video. Oh, cool. Oh, Miguel, cool. You know what? I'm so used to most developers that they send me Google Play links. So yeah, cool. Pop Video, podcasted video. I like the icon. Again, but it's what works. So, but it does look like something that would fit in really well there. Create your podcast into a video waveform. Import your audio and artwork. Clip your podcast. Customize your waveform. Is this something that waveform 3 easy steps? Is this something where you can export it as a video so you can put it on YouTube or something? I had somebody ask me that recently. Well, a couple months ago, they were saying they were doing a podcast and they wanted a way that what was the best way to take their podcast and put it onto YouTube with video. And I thought, well, I would just drag it into a video editor and put an image on it. But yeah, they wanted to have it in that place too. So, and that might be something that would be really useful if that's what it is. But let's see. Create podcast into video waveform. Import your own audio and artwork. Clip your podcast. Customize your waveform. So I think this looks cool. I think what it does for me, it depends on how people. If somebody's looking for it, it's going to be perfect. But if it's someone like me, where I need to be convinced that I need it. Save or clip your new video clip. So, like, if I don't see the reason for it, you might need to put that in the screenshot. So, reach to new markets or whatever. But I mean, you're doing 114. So it's funny how often on iOS you see very few reviews. So you're doing really well. What is this? It's free. You got in-app purchases. You got some bad reviews. And new version of source. And this is another thing. So many times you'll see reviews, and it's like when you're looking at an application, like on the App Store, and you're trying to decide whether or not you're going to download it, and you see all these bad reviews, but the reviews are not saying the app sucks. They're saying the last update messed things up. That's what they'll say, right? It's almost like, but you kind of want to know what the app is like. It's like on Amazon. Like if you ever see an Amazon review and they're complaining about the shipping, or it arrived late. It's like, that's not really what I care about. Your little situation. I want to know if the product is any good. So I think it looks cool. Let's have a look at it on App Annie. I lost appannie.com. I have to log in again. Did you guys saw me say remember me for 14 days, didn't you? Okay, here we go. There we go. Pop Video. Oh, I was typing. Yeah, I was typing pop video, wasn't I? Sorry about that, Miguel. Let's see. Cool. So look at the ASO keywords. I was wondering what you would be ranking for. So podcast, video, audiogram, overcast, podcast, audio drama, overcast, podcast. Oh, podcast. Why are you ranking for podcast? Podcast download. Although it's a good strategy. I've heard people say that, being able to put a misspelled keyword in there, because if somebody does misspell it, then you're going to rank better for that. But it looks good to me. How's it doing, Miguel? Let's see. So is there much of a ranking difference between iOS versus Google Play? In terms, so Josh asked, is there a ranking difference between iOS and Google Play? In terms of like how, for this app specifically, or are we talking about just in terms of, do they make a big difference? Because they do. If you go into iOS, you have different fields, so it doesn't work so much, doesn't take so much into consideration the backlinks. The title is very important. They have the keywords field in there, so you actually put the 100 characters of the keywords. You have the description and everything. And I'm not sure how the short title figures into that. When it comes, yeah. So when it comes to ASO, where I know I know that they're different. I know the basics. I know someone like Steve P. Young, I know he'll probably be able to answer that question right away on App Masters, but it's something I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure the answer to that. So anyway, so I think I've answered all of them. Hawk's going to hit the sack now. Try to cultivate a habit of waking up early. Thanks for hosting the session. Have a good weekend. Yeah, everybody, thanks so much for joining on the live stream today. Like I said, I'm probably not going to do a daily video for the next couple of days. I'm just going to take, I'm going to come up with some good topics. I really want to change the not rush through them so much, come up with some better topics going forward. So I hope you guys don't mind if I miss a few days while I come up with a plan. I just need to come up with a plan, and then but I will see you guys next week on the live stream. We'll definitely do next week's live stream, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for showing up. Talk to you later. Bye.
Taking this blindfold off to see what this life's all about. Threw my virtues to the ground, drinking from the devil's cup. Take